lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and back again by myself for another weekly reads. Dylan is still on hiatus as of this week, so I just thought I would talk the books that I really dug this week. I think I mentioned some other books I was going to read for this week's episode, but I kind of decided I would switch it up. So I'm going to talk Death of Doctor Strange number 1, Moon Knight number 3, and Last Ronin number 4. First up, I'm going to talk Moon Knight number 3. This series has been really dope. You know, got the show coming up soon on, I believe, Disney Plus with Oscar Isaac, but it's clear, you know, like Marvel, you know, they always have a series coming out prior to any type of movie show that they got in the works, and this series so far, issue 3, has been phenomenal. The McNiven covers have been really dope. He homaged Stephen Platt on issue 1, homaged Jay Lee on this one, and kind of learning more about Hunter's Moon and this new villain. Love the Mr. Knight aspect of Mark Spector, and he's continuing. He's running his midnight mission, helping the people of the night and stuff like that. I've been loving these little interactions with the therapist that he talks to. He's got vampires working for him, so this is really leaning more into the supernatural stuff. Just an overall really dope superhero book. Jed McKay writing, Alessandro Cappuccio on art. The relationship between him and Reese, who's working at the Midnight Mission, even saying, they've said things about you, about what you used to do to people. He even says, I did all those things and more. And she kind of calls him out because one of the other vampires that he saved was attacked, hit with the crescent moon, kind of the crescent darts, I guess they call them. And, he says it wasn't him. Goes out to figure out who might have done it. Really loving the design of the costume in this one. I really love the way it's depicted. Not always easy to do a all white costume, but they definitely are doing a great job. And here's where we have Hunter's Moon, another fist of Khonshu. Really, really dope to see the contrast between these two characters, both being fists of Khonshu apparently. The fight scenes, the choreography in this book, action in here is just fucking really, really dope. But again, I won't ruin too much. If you're not up to date, I suggest go pick up the first couple of issues that have come out. This third issue is really ramping things up. Jed McKay is quickly becoming a writer that when he's announced on a book, I'll always check it out. I mean, he even wrote Death of Doctor Strange this week, so he's got 2 books in this week's reads. So I won't spend too much time talking about him with this one, but I'm really digging what he's doing with Moon Knight. Moon Knight's a character that I always pick up anytime there's a new title, and this one was no different. And Jed McKay's really fleshing out some interesting stuff in terms of the supporting cast, supernatural element. We got not totally dealing with the fallout of the Moon Knight arc in The Avengers by Jason Aaron. So he's really kind of separating from that and giving us a new mission for Mark Spector. And again, the art is phenomenal. Cappuccio's art is so fucking dope. And it's on a whole nother level, dude, just the action. Really playing with the shadows to kind of accentuate the white in the costume. Easily one of my favorite Marvel books coming out right now. Definitely worth your money. And like I said, I didn't want to get too much into the details because I really wanted to just kind of showcase a little bit about the book. I think Dylan and I talked about issue 1, and it was kind of a light week, nothing too crazy for me. So I just figured I'd kind of flip through issue 3, give a little bit of my thoughts on the book. And I will jump into Death of Doctor Strange number 1, complete with a fresh Scotty Young cover. Also got the Mike Del Mundo cover, the Miles Morales 10th anniversary one, which is really dope. But I've chose this one as the one to kind of use to talk about the book. We got, like I said, Jed McKay is a writer, Lee Garber is the artist, Antonio Fabella is a colorist, Corey Pett is a letterer, and bunch of dope covers. As the title says, this is Death of Doctor Strange. We talk about Koshi the Deathless, and how he's saying, Stephen Strange is saying how he's always been fascinated with him, and he kind of throughout the issue talks about that particular character of Slavic legend, and they said he was immortal, and reason for that was he removed a small piece of himself, a small piece of life, his soul, and that way he could never die. And how he hit it, and it's really cool. Like, spoiler alert, there's going to be spoilers in this particular issue, but I've read this one twice, and it kind of, on the second read, I'm like, okay, that's so, like, they're leading up to a big reveal at the end. If you don't want to fucking know how this issue ends, I suggest you, as you see me get closer to the end, definitely skip it. But another thing I thought was kind of funny is this Bat's ghost dog that he has, and the dialogue between them, the conversation. It's very funny, very humorous dialogue, and that's one of Jed McKay's strong suits, I think, is his dialogue. He adds a certain level of humor while not feeling very corny by any means. And throughout this issue, we just, Doctor Strange is really reiterating, what it takes to be the Sorcerer Supreme, mentioning how he got the use of his hands back. So kind of giving a brief history on him, but not overdoing it by any means. And I think this is one of the more interesting things to do with Doctor Strange over the past few years, is giving the use of his hands back so he can be a surgeon again. His responsibilities in the operating room are not that different from his responsibilities as Sorcerer Supreme. He has to protect people. He has to keep people alive. And we're seeing the first, inklings of something bad is happening between the dimensions. And he stops this guy who is linked to the dimension in the celestial concordance, whatever that is. The dimension is dying, and then we flash forward Strange Academy, again really reiterating what it takes to be a Sorcerer Supreme, and how whether it's him or the next person to be the Sorcerer Supreme, really the responsibilities that it entails, the sacrifices that you have to make as well when you're the Sorcerer Supreme. And something big is obviously happening, and he ends up back at his mansion on Bleecker Street, and gets a knock at the door. Something happens, and this is where shit hits the fan. Just as he said, just as the title of the book, Death of Doctor Strange. He fucking dies, and immediately it's felt around the world. A balance shifting, things become strange. It says they're feeling it. All this stuff is affecting multiple characters throughout the Marvel Universe. Baron Mordo makes his appearance. He's accused of killing him, and he's like, if he was going to die, it would be at my hands. I would never have somebody else do it. And, the whole thing about separating a piece of your soul by Koshi the Deathless, and so that he could live forever. Doctor Strange says is a son that he never achieved but once when he was much younger, in case he might be killed in the future. This is where I'm going to spoil it. This is where the book really got fucking dope to me. And he said he did when he was younger. The young version of Doctor Strange, the Ditko-esque version of Doctor Strange, makes an appearance at the very end and talks about how the worst must have happened since he was released. Definitely a really cool issue. Like I said, I've read it twice already. Really dug the comic. Highly recommend it. Any Doctor Strange fans out there, if you're a fan of Jed McKay's other work, definitely pick this up. He's definitely a name to be on the lookout for. Definitely one of my favorite books of the week. But my favorite book of the week is this little book right here, Last Ronin, and it's the 4th issue. long awaited fourth issue. This book has been by no means on a regular schedule. Multiple delays, months between issues. I know it was supposed to be, I think, every other month, but feels like an eternity since issue 3 came out. But it didn't disappoint. I did an episode on the first issue of Last Ronin. Haven't really talked about the book in between then, but again, light week, and this was by far my favorite book of the week. And I think this particular issue even stands really well on its own. So I thought I'd just give my brief thoughts on it. I won't dive too deep into it. I will just kind of share what I thought was cool about the book. And I definitely think that anybody, if you're not already reading it, I know it's coming to an end, but I know there's multiple printings for the first 3 issues, so they shouldn't be too hard to find. I think they're even releasing a 4th printing of number 1. I think I saw that solicited, and it's just such a cool concept. Really, really leaning into Dark Knight Returns, the futuristic last sort of quote unquote last Batman story. I mean, Frank Miller has always been kind of an inspiration, I think, and influence in terms of the original Turtles run for Eastman and Laird, and this story was created back in the day, and the fact that they have finally taken those ideas for that original story and kind of given us something that honored those ideas, but also I think they changed some stuff up. I think it's been such a fun read, especially if you're a Ninja Turtles fan. And read the credits real quick. The story, like I said, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird and Tom Waltz is who the story is by. The script is Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman. Layouts Kevin Eastman. Pencils and inks by Uso and Isaac Escorza. Ben Bishop and Kevin Eastman. So multiple artists on the book. Color assistance is also by Samuel Plata. Colors by Luis Antonio Delgado. Letters Sean Lee. Edited by Bobby Curnow. So if you haven't been reading it, spoiler alert, The Last Ronin is Michelangelo. So on his journey as to where we are now, he's now going to take down the descendant of Oroku Saki. He came to find himself with April's daughter, who is also Casey Jones' daughter. The art in this book is phenomenal. The story is dope. I love seeing this big hulking Michelangelo. He's got all the weapons. He's got Raphael's sai. He's got Leonardo's katana and Donatello's bow staff. He's rolling around with all of them, kind of taking these rebels that have come together to take down Baxter Stockman, to take down Oroku Saki's descendant, in the Foot Clan. And the fact that Michelangelo is now the sensei, much like Splinter was to him, and kind of taking her under his wing and training, and throughout this, you'll see the other turtles, but that's all in his head, right? Those are just the memories of them, and kind of they give their opinions still, which I think is kind of funny, and has been throughout this entire series. What's interesting too is seeing Michelangelo in this light, where he wasn't always he was never the serious one, right? He was always the jokester, and now seeing him hardened by the loss of his family, and that's another thing that I really love is, we get bits and pieces as the series is going in terms of how he ended up being the last. And like I said, the training between them I love that he's now going to train her. While the series started out, he was alone by himself. Now he's back with family again. And April, this is where April asked him, well, what happened? You never finished telling me, what happened in Japan. And while he was looking for, after losing his other brothers, he went out and was looking for Donatello and Splinter. These Eastman pages are by far some of my favorite. I mean, anytime Eastman does a Turtles cover, I get all those covers. And I love that it's mimicking the duotone from the black and white 80s Ninja Turtles comics. I think that really, it's a nice touch. We learn what happened to Donatello and Splinter, and it's kind of heartbreaking, right? Like, we have him telling his memory of his time in Japan, but then as we flash forward, we get the actual occurrences of what happened to Donatello and Splinter. The fight scenes in here, the battles, make this like easily one of the best Ninja Turtles comic books I've ever read. It's full of heart, it's full of action, it's full of humor. It has everything that I would want in a Ninja Turtles comic, and I think this will go down as one of the best Turtles stories ever produced. And I can only hope that we're going to get more maybe set in this world. Not sure if there is any more stories that were unfinished that they could go to, or maybe they just continue to flesh out this particular world. It definitely isn't tied into the IDW stuff. This is published by IDW, but it's not tied into the current continuity. This obviously is much different than what we get from there. I would almost imagine this is the future of the Mirage story. Something that I definitely would love, if given the chance, to ask Eastman himself and see kind of like what possible future is this. This is the perfect book for Turtles fans, old and new. This is just I'm telling you, these duotone pages are such a treat, man. It's so cool to see. I don't know if he drew these on actual duotone boards, or this is all done digitally, but I feel like this is done digitally to replicate these effects. But there is a huge part of me that would really love if he just had old duotone boards that was drawing straight on these and doing it old school. Either way, though, I really love these pages. I love all the artists on the book, even besides Kevin Eastman. The Escorza brothers and Ben Bishop, all of them really add their own touch to each of the scenes that they're doing. And even from the design to Michelangelo with his full gear on, I think it's really cool. And to see them going down to one last battle, Baxter Stockman still playing a factor with his Mousers, and of course the Foot Clan. You can't have a Turtles story without the Foot Clan being a major adversary. Just like Oroku Saki, all of his descendants are just always come off as like just entitled, spoiled brats. Like, this is kind of what this guy, get the vibes he gives me. April continuing to be a badass. She was always, I think, one of the best supporting characters in any franchise, where she actually ended up holding her own amongst the Turtles and the heroes of the series. We got Professor Honeycutt making an appearance, him being the one to finally take out Baxter. I think that's pretty dope as well. And the series ends, and the issue ends with them winning the battle and not the war. I can't say enough good things about this. This book is by far one of my favorite comics of the past few years. I just wish that the momentum could stay built, but they always, there's always such large gaps in terms of when it comes out. But each time it comes out, it's my favorite book of the week, and there's no question about it. So, it's just brief thoughts. Didn't really have a ton to say about these books this week, other than just a solid week. Good debut from Death of Doctor Strange. Moon Knight, another solid issue in this run, and then of course Last Ronin 4, which I think was my favorite issue of the series yet. So can't wait to see how that ends. Can't wait to see how that one ends, and definitely recommend all these books. Go pick them up. Let's talk about what I possibly will read for next week. Still waiting on Dylan to come back, but who knows? Who knows when he'll be able to capture a moment to kind of talk over the books. So we got Inferno number 1 next week, which is the beginning of the end of Hickman's run on X-Men. Maybe I'll talk about the final Nick Spencer issue of Spider-Man. Let's see if he can somewhat stick to the landing. Who knows? Other than that, kind of seems like a light week in terms of what to talk about. A lot of stuff's in the middle of the arcs. Kind of why I didn't want to talk about Moon Knight this week, but I decided to anyways because wasn't much to talk about. New Ninja Turtles next week. New Echo Lands also next week. So there's some stuff to talk about. Tentatively, be talking Inferno number 1, Amazing Spider-Man 74. But that's all I got this week. If you're not already following me, if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Follow Dylan, even though he's not here, at The Dillbot on Instagram. And Dillbot is dope on Twitter. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid goes up. And on that note, I'm out.